So what are these risks of sending a kid into therapy? What are the primary worries that one might have that this child goes in there to get better and doesn't seem to get better? What is actually problematic there?
So first of all, it can encourage a child to ruminate on their bad feelings. This is the major symptom of depression is rumination. Teach them a habit of dwelling on their past pain or injury. So that will make them more depressed. It can make them more fearful, more anxious by exaggerating their fears. If a child says, I'm really scared of the dog next door, and you say, oh, that must be so scary, tell me about it, the child will leave the office feeling more afraid of the dog next door. And the same is true with, alienation from parents. A therapist can encourage a child to feel that the parents have injured them, that they have traumatized them, or that they don't know what they're doing. After all, they hired a therapist. Mom must not really know how to help me. And then there's the bad effects of things like being diagnosed. Once you get a mental health diagnosis, unlike being told you're shy or a little awkward, now you have a limitation that you need a therapist or a medication to help you. So that can really change your self-concept. They call that demoralization. And then the last thing is, if you're in this habit of always checking in with your therapist, you tend to be afraid of making a decision or a choice of your own, on your own. And we're seeing that in these young people. They don't consider life an adventure. They think their life is full of danger, and they are fearful. They are the most fearful and anxious generation on record.
This is not entirely due to phones. I mean, this is the other suggestion people have, that this generation is defensive, anxious, depressed, because they haven't been properly socialized with other people, their peers in their lifetime. And certainly COVID added another mega dimension to that isolation. Does that hold up? Do the studies hold out phones as sort of crucial to this, or did it start earlier? Is it more easily explained otherwise?
So the phones are bad for mental health. I don't want to, for teenagers, I don't want to be in a position of ever defending the phones. My last book was about a social contagion spread largely through social media. And I'm very aware that the phones are not good for kids and they're harmful. The question is, though, we've seen the adolescents in declining mental health since the 1950s. And by 2016, just to bring up one statistic, by 2016, the CDC was already reporting that 1 in 6 kids ages 2 to 8 had a mental health or behavioral diagnosis.
A diagnosis?
Right. Now, those kids aren't on smartphones. Those are ages 2 to 8 in 2016. They weren't on smartphones and they weren't on social media. So we've seen this precipitous decline in mental health. Do I think that the phones and social media has hurt it? Absolutely. But do I think it entirely explains it? No, I don't.
Tell me about social emotional learning. I have heard this being brought up in various discussions around pedagogy in schools, and I never really understood what it has. One of those. It seems it is the name social emotional learning just feels weird to me. And what does it actually mean? What happens when your kid is put through social emotional learning? What are its core characteristics?
So what the advocates will claim is it's teaching things like coping skills and emotional regulation and self-awareness, all things we would want kids to have. The question is, are they actually teaching those things? And can you teach those things in a class even? And I argue in the book that the answer to both is no. And what's actually going on in the ground, remember when they talk about emotional regulation, it's a series of exercises and workbooks. They rarely let kids take these home, but it's a series of exercises and workbooks and discussions that look a lot like group therapy. And the reason is, if you want to teach kids about coping and bullying and emotional regulation, very often you're going to talk about past pain. So they're going to ask kids to remember a time when they were sad, disappointed, felt made fun of. They're asking kids to engage in the habits of rumination, which we already said was the number one symptom of depression. So they start by making kids feel sad so that they almost invariably have to, in order to have this discussion about, now how would you react in that situation? Because remember, It's preventive. They're not waiting till a child has an actual problem. They're going in and proactively teaching these skills, which means they have to induce a sense of sadness or disappointment or past injury in order to get there.